faith, that's something that scares people. It's like a big scary monster that's going to chew you up, spit you out, and drool all over you, if you're lucky. So it seems like a lot of times when you go to an astrologer, what always surprises me is the fear that people have for fate and about fate, yet they come to astrologers. In fact, it's the fear of fate that so often causes people to go to an astrologer. It's like this ironic thing, okay? And not only is it an ironic thing, it's an extremely painful thing. So I'm going to talk about fate today, and how fate is nothing to be feared, and how fate, like everything that comes into your life, is a doorway to enlightenment and power. Okay? Now I have one of my favorite books here. It's called the Tao Te Ching, The Way and Its Power. Okay? The Tao is the way. What is the way? Well, Tao you can almost just say, replace Tao with God in another religion. So Tao is the way that life happens. And that way is the same and synonymous with God, or the gods, whatever your philosophy wants to imagine it to be. But this book has a lot of little, multi-sentence, two-sentence, so on, one-sentence words of wisdom in it. One of my favorite sections in it is the 23rd section, where he says, and this is dated about 3000 BC, okay? It says, if you open yourself to the Tao, you're at one with the Tao, and you can embody it completely. And that's the very essence of this whole part of section 23. If you open yourself up to the Tao, you become one with the Tao, and then you can embody it completely. Now let's replace Tao with God. If you open yourself up to God, you become one with God, and then you can embody God completely. So that's the goal, isn't it? To embody God completely. Right? Or embody the Tao, the way that things are. The way. Because the way is God. How is the way God? Well, because all religions tell us God is omnipotent, God is also omnipresent, and God is also omniscient. Which means what's happening, the way we're on, can only be of God's making, which therefore means it can only be God itself. So the way is God. And we want to embody that completely according to the Tao Te Ching. So based on this idea that if we open ourselves up to the Tao, or the way, or to God, we become one with it, and then we can embody it completely. That little sentence is the answer to all of our problems in life. And if we follow this truth fully, we can be much happier individuals. And that means embodying this truth when it comes to fate, the scary monster. Okay? Now let's say what else Tao Te Ching says. There's a couple other examples it gives of this idea. He says, if you open yourself to insight, you're at one with insight, and you can use it completely. So if you open yourself to insight or truth, you become one with insight or truth, and then you use it completely. Okay? Because if you use truth or insight incompletely, it's really not insight or truth, is it? So again, it emphasizes the need to open ourselves up to it. Now what does fear do? It does the opposite. It closes ourselves. So let's imagine we reverse this process. If you close yourself to the Tao, because you're scared, or you close yourself to the way, you are not at one with the way. And then you can't embody anything. And that's what fear does. Instead of opening you, it closes you. Okay? If you close yourself to insight because you're scared of what you know to be true, you are not at one with insight, and then you can't use it at all, which means you don't have a frigging clue about anything in your life. I see so many people doing this, especially women. Women have remarkable capacity for insight. It's called feminine intuition. And it's what Parashar says the moon has, which is the woman. Par says the moon is all-knowing. And women are more lunar than male. So women have a greater all-knowing capacity. But if they're fearful, they close themselves off to insight. And as a result, they do not become one with insight. As a result, they don't have a friggin' clue about where their life is going. And then they call astrologers. Okay? So, what do we need to do? We need to remove the fear and use that feminine intuition, whether we're male or female, and that divine insight that women have a higher innate nature to. And be open to insight. And even though we don't like what we see, sometimes be open to it. And realize by being open to it, we become one with it. And then you can use it completely. Now, if you can use insight completely, think of how profound that's going to be. That gives you power. If you can really use insight completely, it gives you power. Okay, just like if you open yourself to the way, the Tao, or to God, you become one with God, the way, or the Tao, and then you can use it completely, or embody it completely. Well, if you're embodying the way, embodying God, that gives you power, right? That gives you the opposite of fear. Okay? Then he goes on to say, if you open yourself to loss, you're at one with loss, and you can accept it completely. Isn't that amazing? I practiced this one a lot with my old girlfriends before I got married. If you open yourself up to loss, you become one with loss, and then you can accept it completely, which means you're okay, you're not hurt. Now, why is that? Because loss is also the way. Loss is also God. Loss is also spirit. It's a painful, hard to digest, hard to swallow form of God, but it's still the same thing. So we open ourselves up to loss, become one with loss, and then we can accept it completely. That means we're totally at peace and happy. It makes no difference. So those are the three examples that Tao give. Now in my life, I practice this principle in lots of different ways. I like to say, if you open yourself up to fear, you become one with fear, which is to say, one with God, because God is also fear. And then you're not afraid of anything. Because why would you be afraid of God, right? It's only because we see fear as the Antichrist that we close ourselves to it. So these statements in the Tao have to do with opening ourselves up to the way, becoming one with the way, and then we can embody it. And embody it, we have power. So how does that apply to fate, the scary monster? Because honestly, it's a scary monster. Even if the astrologer predicts something good, well, you come back to him a year after that good thing happened, chances are he's going to predict something bad, right? Because fate goes up where you want it to, and then it comes cascading and crashing down on you. Because fate is about change, and change means up and down. So, fate, we could say, is a way. It's the way of your life. It's the Tao, the way of your life. It's the way that God has decided to unfold your life. The problem with fate is we're scared of fate. So we close ourselves off to fate out of fear. Just like fear is always the thing that closes ourselves off to God. And closing ourselves off to the fate, we suffer our fate. Why? Because when we're closed, we don't have God. And we don't have God, we don't have power. And we don't have power, we suffer. It's just that simple. So I like to say, if you open yourself up to fate, you can become one with fate. And then you can do anything. Why? Because then you have power. Because you've opened yourself up to fate, which is God in the way. You become one with fate. And as a result, you have power. Because when you become one with anything, whether it's God, fate, misery, fear, pain, or happiness, or the way, you are one with God, and then you have power. Okay? There's been times in my life where I'd study my horoscope, and I'd say, my gosh, I got this terrible thing coming my way. And I start going, this isn't going to be good. And I say, okay, just open yourself up to it. I open myself to embracing that fate, and becoming one with that fate, and embracing it, and making it a part of myself. And every time I've done that, I've found myself to have the power to master that fate in ways that surprised me. Okay, that ways I wouldn't have expected. Because when we embrace fate, become one with fate, we're becoming one with God. And that gives us power, right? So I like to say in the context of this similar idea, if we open ourselves up to fate, we become one with fate, and then we can do anything. And so the healthiest way to approach fate, which is what's going to happen when you go to get an astrology reading, is to be open to it, become one with it, and then see what miraculous things you can make happen in your life. See how happy you can be. But if you have fear of that fate, and you're not able to be open to that fate, literally welcoming and saying, oh yeah, me losing my dream job, I'm going to be totally open to it. I'm just going to let it be. I'm going to let it be the way. I'm totally embracing it. I'm totally open it, because losing my job is God too. Okay? I become open to it. Then something shifts. When you truly do that, something shifts within you that gives you power to make your life better than you ever thought it would be. Okay? So instead of fate being a scary monster, which is what it so often appears, don't let it be a scary monster. Embrace it and see what it really is. It's just God smiling at you in another happy, sunny way. So, open yourself up to fate, become one with fate, and then you can do anything, and it works. So when you hear that bad astrological prediction, don't freak out. Be totally open to it. Embrace it, and see what truth you find within it. Sometimes the truth you'll find when you fully embrace it, you'll go, wait a minute, something feels wrong here. They told me a wrong prediction. I've had that happen. I went to a reader once and I asked them a question and they said no. And I embraced it and it just felt wrong. And in embracing that fate, of course I knew it wasn't fate. Okay? And so I realized in a moment of doing that, okay, this prediction would not happen. Did I get upset at that reader? I was like, no. Because they gave me a definitive answer which was wrong, it let me embrace that answer and find out what was true and realize that the actual opposite would happen. So I still had a perfect prediction. Okay, because I embraced the fate. So if you get an inaccurate prediction, by embracing that fate, if it's not true, you'll feel it if you truly attempt to embrace it and become one with it, which means open yourselves up to it. Open yourself up to that fate, that prediction. Imagine your entire life and being at peace with that prediction and how wonderful your life could be just as soon as that terrible thing happens to you. And see all the potentials that could manifest from that terrible event. Okay? And be open to all those potentials. And then you'll see, oh, actually this is a wrong prediction. This doesn't feel right. You'll feel it. You'll know it. Because you're becoming one with it. And if it's false, you cannot become one with it. No matter how hard you want to be, because you cannot become one with something that's false. And then you'll know the prediction that was made for you was wrong. Okay? If the prediction made for you was right, you'll embrace it. You'll get tears. You'll get a knowingness that this is what your road to power, your road to the greatest happiness possible for you. And so you can become one with it and embrace it and master your fate. That's how I master my fate. I don't do rituals. I don't do pujas. I don't do mantras because I rather embrace it. Because that always gives me a surprising ability to manage it in a way that enriches my life above and beyond the way I thought it would had I tried to change it the way I thought I wanted it to. Because when we think we want something, that's just the ego thinking, I'm super stupid and I think this is what I want and need. That's what happens when I say, oh, I really need this though. I mean, you were saying, ego, I'm super dumb. I don't know what the hell's going on in the universe, but I'm going to tell God what I'm going to need. But if you open yourself up to the fate, become one with it, you realize what you really need. And maybe it was what you thought you needed, but maybe it wasn't. But whatever it is, when you truly open yourselves up to it, you get power to do anything. And what are you going to do? You're going to do the thing that makes you the happiest along your path. Okay? So try to do that with your fate. Don't fear it. Don't run to another astrologer. Don't worry about remedials. Embrace it. the easiest way, because in embracing fate, you're embracing God. You're embracing God's plan. And there's power within that plan. But if you close yourself off to it, you lose that power. You get nothing. All you do is get pushed around by the planets and beat up and bruised and spit out by the fate monster. And you don't want that. Embracing the fate is the easiest way, in my opinion, and my experience. Surprisingly amazing how it will change your life if you can try doing that instead of being fearful. Okay? Alright, so that's my lecture on fate. Don't be scared about those nasty predictions. Use them to gain power in your life by embracing that fate, becoming one with fate, and then realizing that you can do anything. You can do above and beyond what you thought you wanted. You can do more to be happy than you thought you could do to be happy. It's pretty amazing.